सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति। This is the question left over from yesterday. How can we reconcile ourselves limitless and whole in our daily life, where there will be difference to perceive ourselves limited or limitless practically? So question seems to be that when we see ourselves as a limited being habitually, and we are taught that you are limitless, how do we reconcile between what we truly are and the way we look at ourselves? This can only be done during meditation. It is difficult to do this while you are actively doing things. Seeing the self as limitless requires a very contemplative mind. In other words, this can be done during meditation. And how do we reconcile that with the day-to-day life will be subject matter of next verse, that our life should become karma yoga. Because what we are right now, where there is this strong identification of the body, where thus there is a very rooted idea of my being a limited self. When that idea is rooted, it is not possible to see myself as limited while doing things, because then if my mind is free from all distraction, then I would be able to focus upon myself and see this fact. But we are not yet trained or ready to see ourselves limitless while the mind is distracted in doing things. That is abiding knowledge which will take time. Therefore, to see myself as Purna or limitless, that becomes possible only when my mind is free from distractions and demands, when my mind enjoys the quietude, a leisure, is relaxed. That is when it is possible to see this. What we need to do is to try to stretch those sessions as much as we can. Make those sessions as often as you can, or stretch a session as long as you can, as long as the mind permits. And thus it's going to require, because when the mind is accustomed to perceiving the self as limited for so long, to overcome that habit, which is going to take its own time, and we need a certain disposition of mind to do that, and that disposition is going to be available when you are meditating, meaning that when you have the leisure, when there is no other demand, nothing else to do, that is when this can be done. In the daily life, as Lord Krishna teaches in Karma Yoga, you act from the platform of limitlessness. What I mean is, and that we'll discuss tomorrow, is that when I see myself as a limited being, then there is a sense of lack or want in me, and that translates as desire to become free from that lack or want. So usually actions are performed with some of the other desire. That is the situation today. But if I presume or tell myself, look, this limitedness is not the reality about you, and therefore act as though you are limitless. In which case, I will not be a seeking person, I will be a giving person. Just change of attitude. We shall discuss tomorrow. So how do we live a life which is conducive to this vision? The first mantra gives us a vision of life. Second mantra teaches us how to live the life in keeping with that vision so that that becomes our vision in course of time. Now next set of questions. Who has the adhikara to do dharma adharma vichara in conflict? Everybody has adhikara. Adhikara means fitness. Everybody has the adhikara, fitness. Not only that, but it is necessary for everyone to dwell upon or reflect upon what is right and not right in every situation. By dharma, what is meant is doing what is right. And mostly we know what is right. There may be some time where there can be, because sometimes there may be a grey area of right and wrong. Right and wrong are black and white, there is no difficulty in separating them. Sometimes that distinction becomes grey and then this looks right this way, that not right there. Then we need to spend time and do viveka, discriminate. And this situation do happen. More we are committed to any value, such as dharma, and more particular we become to only act according to dharma, do what is right. More committed we become to do that, more we find that to determine what is right and wrong is not that easy. If you commit to speaking truth, for example, normally truth is different from untruth. But more and more you dwell upon what is truth, different aspects of it, then you find that it requires a subtle mind to determine what is truth in this given situation. What is non-violence? Because non-violence is not the description of an action. Action can be violent, suppose outwardly. It is the intention behind the action that determines whether the action is violent or non-violent. So also dharma and adharma. Dharma does not mean a given action. Dharma means what is right in a given situation, which will require us to really dwell upon that, contemplate upon that, do viveka. And so that is why you find someone like Harishchandra is devoted to dharma. No, he will have a lot of conflict will be there when his own wife comes with his child and stuff like that. So more you are committed, more challenges come. Committed to non-violence and a challenge. What is non-violence here? Doing this is non-violence, doing that is non-violence. More we dwell upon that, more we find it becomes subtler and subtler. So dharma tattvam, the tattva or the truth of dharma becomes subtler more and more we think about it. And this we have to, everybody has to, everybody is adhikara means we are all supposed to act according to dharma. Therefore each one has to decide what is dharma and adharma in a given situation. In most cases, not difficult. In some cases, it becomes difficult. Like duty. If dharma is translated as duty, duty means performing according to a role. Now sometimes you are playing several roles. A man may be his husband also for somebody, son for somebody, brother for somebody. And there may be demands that mother may have some demand, wife has some other demand, brother has some other demand. It may be conflicting demands. That is when comes the, viveka as to what dharma I should follow. These questions are asked every day. Swami, why did Lord Rama abandon Sita? A typical situation of determining what is dharma. So there was conflict because on one hand, supposedly it is said that all the subject, the people, they all thought that Sita was not chaste. And he knew, of course, but still, if he has to perform his dharma towards his praja, then he has to do according to what praja says. He is husband also. And he should perform his dharma to his wife also. So now there are conflicting demands. Dharma as husband requires him to protect his wife. Dharma as king requires him to abandon the wife. You follow? It is not a black and white situation. Not that he abandoned. He must have gone through a lot of conflict in his mind and a lot of this deliberation. And must have determined that in this situation, acting as king is more proper for him than acting as husband. That's how, not that he does not understand what happens to Sita, and he's heartless or something, because there was a deep love between them. How can you, and don't think that Rama abandoned, he abandoned himself also. From that day on, he never lived as a king. He lived only as an ascetic. But what I am saying is that dharma can be pretty demanding. Not always, there are times. And everybody has to do that vichara. And otherwise, ask somebody, you can always consult. Yadi karma vichikitsava, vrutta vichikitsava syat. Taittiriya Upanishad says, ye tatra brahmanaha sammarshinaha yukta ayuktaha. Then you consult people who are knowledgeable and wise and selfless. Next, what's the difference between search of self and search of Bhagavan? Now, depending upon what your concept of Bhagavan is. If Bhagavan is Saguna Brahma, then the search is of a different nature than search of the self. Ultimately, both the search converge into one. But Bhagavan is Tatpada according to Vedanta. Self is Tvam-pada. And so we have to dwell upon each of them. Because we have our own conclusion of what Bhagavan is, and therefore we have to examine that conclusion also. Based on what the Upanishad teaches, conclusion about what the self is, we have to dwell upon that also. That's called Shodhanam. Tat-pada Shodhanam, Tvam-pada Shodhanam. Tat-pada is Ishvara. So what is my present understanding of Ishvara? And what does Vedanta say? Therefore, I must dwell upon my conclusion about Ishvara in light of what Vedanta says, and ultimately come to what Vedanta teaches. Then Vedanta says something of self also, I have my own conclusion, right? So then I dwell upon the self in light of what Vedanta teaches. That's called Tvam-pada Shodhanam. Tat-pada Shodhanam, Tvam-pada Shodhanam, and then the Mahavakya. And so both the search has to be done, Bhagavan as well as self. Why does the limitlessness of Nirguna Brahma create a sense of fear in me? There is a famous statement in the Mandukya Karika, Abhaye Bhayadarshinaha. It creates fear. Because it looks like you're losing yourself. The self is no more there is no more Atma, all there is Brahman, and therefore it looks like Atma is completely let go, or Atma no more remains, only but two are there. Right now Atma is one and Brahman is another one, and identity one has to go, isn't it? If I am Brahman, that means I am no more there. So one would think that knowing the self as Brahman means that I have to give up myself. That is the very superficial understanding. In fact, self can never go because it's not goable. Self is imperishable, therefore it cannot go. What will go is my sense of individuality, that ahankara, the ego will go. But since today that is self-forming, letting go of ego might be equated in my mind with letting go of the self. That's why I'm afraid. What will happen if I am no more there? But you are not something that you cannot no more there. What is about you, which is abiding, can never go. And so, perhaps that fear is there because of not properly understanding the teaching. How do I transform my search for Bhagavan to find myself within? First understand and worship Bhagavan and learn what Bhagavan is. Then see what the self is. Then comes the identity of knowing them as one. Or how do I better relate these two? Right now worship Bhagavan and follow dharma in your life, because both need to be we need first of all shodhanam, the purification of my idea of Bhagavan also, and purification of my idea about myself also, and ultimately they will converge into one. If opinion is intrinsic and a prelude to all human vyavahara, almost like a default setting, how can we gain control over it? Preconceived notions. So it's a process. We'll talk about it tomorrow, fake it till you make it. And so people sometimes they don't like this word fake it till you make it, it's like cheating, but just I think it's a rhyme, fake it till you make it. So fake means pretend. Pretend that you are Satchidananda or you are whole. Even though you don't feel that, pretend. And then ask yourself, how would I conduct myself if I was a whole being? Try to do that. So that is how we can slowly change that setting.
Swamiji, the latest is fake it till you make it, till you become it.
Till you become it. Fake it till you make it. So what is making? And then becoming is different?
Becoming is the living, you breathing in and out.
Alright. Fake it till you make it, till you make it. Become. Yes? Alright, good. Upanishad is a conversation between whom? We should have mentioned that. Upanishad is the conversation between Guru and Shishya. Very often, Shishya means a mumukshu, a seeker of moksha, an aspirant. A mumukshu approaches the teacher and asks a question. It's called pariprashna or jignasa. Lord Krishna says, Tad viddhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya. Swami approached the Guru, long prostration, serve him, please him, and then ask question. Vivek Chudamani says, Prasannam tamanuprapya. When the Guru is pleased with your seva, pleased with you, then that's the right disposition for him to answer your question. Because the right relationship is established. Then ask the question. So it is a disciple, I should say an aspirant, who is asked a question, and the Guru, he teaches, and that teaching is Upanishad. In several Upanishads, we have description of who the disciple is and who the Guru is. In some cases, we don't know who the disciple is, but we know Que Ans Upanishad begins with question. So some disciple is there, some aspirant is there who is asking the question. Here Ishavasya, nobody, there is no disciple, no question, there is a discourse like Mandukya Upanishad, like Ishavasya Upanishad. The Upadesha starts right away. So it is from Guru, and we imagine that it must be in response to a question. But it is understood to be a dialogue between the Guru and Shishya, like Lord Krishna and Arjuna. If Atman cannot be reached by organs and mind, then which faculty do I use? It cannot be reached by sense organs. Therefore, let go of the sense organs. Meaning that now don't attempt to perceive Atman through sense organs. It can be reached by the mind, therefore, stop trying to visualize through mind or objectifying through mind. The idea is that the activity of the sense organs in the mind should become quiet. But then how do I know? But you are that. The idea is that it is not that you have to know something that you do not know. You have to experience something that you are not experiencing. You already know and you are already experiencing yourself. And by dropping these sense organs and mind, what remains is you. And that is when the teaching comes here, that hey, what remains is you, see that you are limitless. Where do I see that? So let me ask a question. Do you know that you are? Do you exist? How do you know? Do you see yourself? Oh, let me hear me. Let me hear myself. Am I there or not? No, I must see, am I there or not? Do I need to verify that I am? Do you know that you are? Yeah, she's scared. No, it's a simple question. It's not like the question in the examination paper are trying to trap you. No, that's not the thing. How do you know that you are? Do you see yourself? Are you there? Yes, I am. So when somebody is knocking at the door, it's out, pitch darkness outside. Who is there? I am there. Does he see I am there? How do you determine that you are there? Because the I am is self-revealing. Self-revealing means it reveals itself. Doesn't need to be seen, perceived, thought of. All perception thing takes place after you are there. And therefore, you don't need sense organs to determine that you are. You don't need one mind also to determine that you are. In fact, mind and sense organs come into play after you are. Is it not so? So that I am a self-revealing fact. In that we are adding other stuff. Good, bad, just let go. So this is a process of negating what I am not rather than becoming what I am. Because I am already. In I am adding. Man, woman, happy, unhappy. Let that go. That's why it is called process of negation of what I am not. So we don't need to use any faculty. Faculty needs to be used for something other than myself. For myself, no faculty needs to be used because I am is self-revealing, always known. The anatma also is known, and that is why the viveka is required. You mentioned only difference between man and buffalo is that buffalo is born carefree. No, I should not have said that much. That's the only difference. That's one of the differences. Not the only difference between man and buffalo. But in light of the stresses that we experience, I just pointed out buffalo, look, no stress. When I go to work in the morning, I'm also quite worked up because I have to go to work and what is going to happen today and a lot of planning is going on. And I see a buffalo seated in the mud pot, When I return home in the evening, the fellow is still sitting there. I come back with all kinds of burdens in my head, and this fellow, yes. That is called stress-free life. Freedom from stress. Become like buffalo. Not buffalo. But cultivate a state of mind that buffalo happens to have by default, and by default we have stressful mind, so we have to work in order to eliminate the cause of stress. Stress is the result of something. Remove the cause, we have to work. Then, buffalo, the next question is that then how does buffalo know? The buffalo doesn't know that it is Brahman. So it is true that buffalo doesn't have stress, but at the same time doesn't have the joy also of being Brahman. So you will become free from stress and you can know that you are Brahman. So that's the big difference. They also must think of themselves as jiva. In the equation I am limited, you said subject is not the same as object, but as we jiva thinks subject, object, how to get out of this notion? This notion has to be addressed. When my mind says I am unhappy, all right, what do you mean by who is unhappy? Which I is unhappy? Where is unhappiness? Is it an I? Like Swamiji, one man comes and says, Swamiji, I am very restless. I said, no, you're all silence. No, Swamiji, I am restless. You're all silence. No, this fellow becomes more excited and Swami becomes more calm. This fellow got so upset, Swami, from Swami he came to Swami. If he repeat once more, there will be two upset people. Swami, okay, now this is the limit. How do you say you're restless? I know I'm restless. How do you know you're restless? I know my mind is. You know that your mind is restless. So, when we pay attention, then we realize subject-object difference, we can realize when we pay attention. Otherwise, by default, I am restless. But how do you know I am restless? How do I say that? Because I know restlessness and I am different from what I know. So that is the way to deal with situations. Particularly when there is stress and restlessness, that is when is the time to apply this teaching. More than anything else. In the last session, you were explaining that through prayer we are requesting Ishvara to remove obstacles. On the other hand, we've been told that all obstacles we are facing in life are due to prarabdha karma. You also said that prarabdha karma is like a released arrow from the bow which cannot be altered by any means. You see, this is the way prarabdha is equated to an arrow that is released from the bow. It is said in a different context that how can that a wise person also continues to live? Now his agenda is over, why should he continue to live? There is something that keeps a wise person also alive. What is that? Prarabdha karma. Even though he has no agenda now to fulfill, he is still alive because his body is determined by prarabdha karma and that will last as long as prarabdha karma is. So the question is, obstacles are due to prarabdha karma. Prarabdha karma is something you can't do anything about. Then you are asking Ishvara to remove obstacles, but they can't be removed because it's prarabdha karma. But by prayer you are creating new karma, understand. By prayer, prayer is a karma. And by prayer we are creating karma phala. Prayer is a karma which will create a phala, which is what will neutralize the prarabdha, which is also a phala. And therefore, prayer can remove obstacles that are likely to come in future by creating a positive effect. It can neutralize a negative effect. So yes, prayer can change prarabdha. Because prayer creates new karma phala. And that karma phala can neutralize the old karma phala. Though at philosophical level, I understand that I am not the body. But it is so tough to come to terms with the death of someone who is loved. At times thinking of death could be easy, one's own death will be easy than dealing with the passing away of a dear person. Yes, that is true. So what's the question? This is true? I do not think that accepting one's death is easier than accepting death of someone else. I don't think so. Since you are alive, therefore death is not an issue right now. And naturally, death of a near and dear one is an issue because you are alive, so that is not an issue. If death faces you, then it can become an issue. Then you have to see whether I can accept my death as, is more difficult to accept my death than death of a dear one? Perhaps not, because I am the dearest, really. The person is right now looks like the dearest to me because I am taken for granted I am around, you follow? That is not an issue. But when I become an issue, then even dear one also is a less important issue than myself, generally speaking. There may be some exceptions, but I am the dearest to me. I am assured that I am all right, then of course I deal with other things, and dearer, dearest, etc. But I do not think that I can deal with my death. It says here. Think one's own death could be easy, but dealing with passing of the other person is not easy. And that could be also, maybe because I what would I do without that person? There may be such a vacuum in my life, that's such a big loss in my life, and perhaps living with a loss may be more difficult than not living. It may look like that, and it could be. But if that is so, that is what it is, then we have to learn to accept that also. What we cannot change. And we have to then dwell upon that. Okay, this person may not be there. So what does it mean? What can I do to fill that gap? Can I do something about it? And maybe you may find a way of equipping yourself with some other thing. There is a loss because this person is very important to me and has an important place in my life, and it would be a big vacuum. But then I may try to fill that vacuum with something else. With something that also gives me a satisfaction of, as I said, helping someone, reaching out to someone, creating another source of comfort. We should do it anyway. That we should do regardless of whether it's someone's death or not. We should seek to create comfort in this manner so that we progressively become independent. Not that we want to be insensitive. The love remains, but the dependence part of the love we want to overcome. Love is not to be given up. But the attachment part, which makes me dependent, that part I have to work on by creating, doing what is required so that I can discover that from myself. What I am getting from this loved one, if I also discover from myself by giving love to someone else. The way to discover love from myself or love for myself is by giving love to others in terms of whatever, in terms of service, whatever you can do. And more we discover that, less dependent we become. We should do that anyway. We should do that anyway so that we discover more and more self-sufficiency from ourselves. But still, losing a dear person is difficult. I will not deny that. Definitely it is. However, as I said, we can create in ourselves also this love by giving love to others right now when the person is around also, and discovering more and more self-sufficiency. Not insensitivity, but more and more self-sufficiency. And still that is there. Losing a loved one is difficult, and regardless of what you do, I think you will have to suffer that pain. You know, Mahatma Gandhi, for example, his whole life he's given, and still, when Kasturba passed away, you could see tears rolling from his eyes. So that is there, and I guess that's part of life.
So creating comfort somewhere else, that should be interpreted.
One second, give me your microphone.
Creating comfort somewhere else, that should be interpreted as giving.
Creating comfort to someone else. What is the significance of the orange robes worn by sannyasins? This question must come from a child. Usually, children always ask this question. Little one, not grown-up children, but little one always ask, why are you wearing these robes? Because they feel quite free to ask questions. Elders may not ask. But very often when you question and such with children, this will be definitely one of the questions. Why do you wear this kind of clothes? As one of my friends says, one thing, one worry you don't have is to choose what to wear. Second remark that I found, passing through the customs, in US, and that fellow opened my way, oh wow, you must love orange, he says, Jatura, you must love orange. But even Indians don't know, why, even in India also people are, why are you wearing this? I'm so surprised that people in India also can be so ignorant. But the battery बदलवाई છે કે ગઈકાલ તો આમાં બદલી હતી ને એ પછી બીજી છે. So orange is the color of flame. And flame means fire. Fire has two properties. One, it burns, and second, it illumines. Fire burns impurities and removes darkness. That's what knowledge does. Knowledge removes the impurities of the mind first, and then it removes the darkness of ignorance. So that is why often knowledge is compared to fire. The fire of knowledge. Jnanagni sarvakarmani bhasmasat kurute tatha. Lord Krishna says, just as a blazing fire turns all the fuel into ashes, so also the fire of knowledge turns all the karma into ashes. So therefore, Jnanagni dakta karmanam tamahu panditam buddhaha. Again Lord Krishna in the 4th chapter, in same chapter. That Buddha, the wise people call this wise person a Pandita. Who is that wise person? One whose karma is burned by fire of knowledge. Really speaking, not karma but kartrutva. This is karma. What is to be burned by knowledge is kartrutva. Karma doesn't affect us. Only karma affects me by the agents of kartrutva, understand? Karma binds us through the agency of karma. Otherwise, karma doesn't bind, doesn't do anything. They say karmana baddhate jantuhu, Manusha is bound by karma. Between you and me, I don't think so. Karma doesn't bind. What goes with karma? Karma is presumed to be performed with desire, so sakama karma. It is that kamana that binds. It is true that when you are about to do something, your mind comes up with expectation. That is why you perform karma with expectation. Karma does not bind. It is the kama, expectation, desire that binds. So, Jnana-agni burns the ignorance. Ignorance creates this identification. That creates kartrutva. And that kartrutvam goes. Karma need not go. Karmani, what is it? Karmanyabhi pravuttopi naiva kinchit karoti saha. He is engaged in performing karma in every way and still does not do anything because the kartrutva is gone. So, the fire of knowledge burns kartrutva and burns bondage. Therefore, number one, color orange stands for knowledge. Also, Agni, fire also stands for sacrifice. All sacrifice rituals are performed with fire. So, fire also stands for tyaga, renunciation. So, this stands for renunciation, for knowledge. And further this one. is shaving your head. That also you can ask, why Swami you shave your head? Because this hair is something very dear to everybody, because, hairstyle is always important. Hair represents attachments. So shaving of the hair, symbolically, is a sign of giving up attachments. So this is what is symbolically involved in wearing orange robes and shaving the head. But Swamiji, our Swamis don't shave head. That's okay. Then you don't shave, that's all. Either do or don't, one of the two. No, it doesn't matter. This is 21st century, so those rules cannot apply now. But what is free will? What is free will is freedom of choice. In Sanskrit it is said like this, kartum shakyam, akartum shakyam, anyathava kartum shakyam. In every situation we have this choice, kartum shakyam, that I have choice to do something. Akartum shakyam, I have choice not to do it. Anyathava kartum shakyam, I choose to do whichever way I want. When I say, please clap, akartum shakyam. You choose not to do it, That is freedom. You have trained a dog, I throw the ball, no choice, it will run. But my child, I throw the ball, it may not run. Because it is a freedom. I don't know. No. Dog will not do that. Dog does not have free will. Meaning, it doesn't decide not to do something. It is trained, it will do. But I need not do. You throw a ball, I may not run, I may not pick it up. Meaning a choice not to do is an important thing. Creatures other than human beings have no choice not to do, but they are programmed to do. When a fan is programmed, you switch on, it will run. Isn't it? You switch me, I may not. So many people sing. The starting trouble, all kind of troubles are there, and so it may not happen. But with bulb it will glow. Once you switch on, it will glow. Means no freedom not to shine, not to glow. Bulb does not have freedom not to glow. Fan does not have freedom not to run. I have freedom not to glow, not to run, not to talk. So that's called free will, which is a very important faculty or gift given to us. Because that is something that can take us to moksha. Free will enables me to make choices in every situation, and by making right choices, it is possible for me to pave the way. What's the right choice? Which leads to freedom. By free will, using free will, I make choices which are conducive to creating freedom for me. So by free will, it can become the means of moksha. Can you explain the quote I saw in Arsa Samadhi? When you see the beauty of prayer, here the will willingly submits. The submission performs the miracle. Puja Swamiji's favorite statement about prayer. Because when you pray, what Puja Swami says is that you willingly submit to Ishvara. You perform the prayer because you look upon Ishvara as the one who is capable of listening, who listens to a prayer and capable of fulfilling the prayer. And therefore, this is where you hand over your free will to Ishvara. You let Ishvara decide. In prayer, you let Ishvara decide. If that is a prayer is not always like that, by the way. Prayer also can be with a desire. I want this, that and so forth, and the free will is not given up. Swami talks of some kind of prayer. But just prayer is an act. Any act can be performed with desire. So prayer also can be performed with desire. In which case I am not willingly given up yet. But ideally prayer is where I submit my will to Ishvara and let him decide. If that is a prayer, then you let go your free will. And you give freedom to Ishvara to decide what is right for you. And then that is a sensible thing to do in every situation, whenever possible. Because Ishvara is omniscient, all-knowing. He knows what is right. I have limited my intellect, limited my knowledge, limited understanding. So what I decide to be right may not be right. So let him decide. Very practical thing. That means submitting the field and let Ishvara decide what he wants.
And this prayer still produce karma phala or no?
Karma phala, yes.
Still
Prayer is a karma, so there will be karma phala. We are praying for karma phala.
So we are still producing that.
Now you may pray not necessarily for phala. It's not necessary. You can perform prayer as an expression of a gratitude. Perform prayer, to praise Ishvara. And perform prayer also for seeking something as a result. So prayer need not necessarily be with an intention to get a reward. It may be out of pleasure that you do also, out of gratification that you do, out of admiration that you do. So these also can be the motivation behind prayer. You mentioned yesterday that self-realization is a process. In general process, one will be able to track the progress. In Vedanta, how will I be able to see the progress, track the progress? You can track the progress. How do you track the progress? Swami, how do I know that I am getting Antagana Shuddhi? This is the question. How do I know that I am acquiring purification of mind? That's the tracking. So what is the characteristic of a mind that enjoys purity? It's called prasannam manaha. Like the water becomes clean and clear, so mind becomes clear, then becomes cheerful. So extent to which you discover cheerfulness within yourself, to that extent mind has become pure. Atma buddhi prasadajam. Sattvic happiness is described as that which is a result of the purification of your own mind. So purer the mind becomes, happier it becomes. More cheer. Why? Because mind becomes transparent and therefore reveals the happiness of the self. So we want the mind to be able to receive and reflect the happiness of self, and purer the mind is, more effectively it does. So you can track the progress as to how much self-satisfaction you are discovering, how much self-esteem you are discovering, how much self-respect you are discovering. More self-esteem, more self-acceptance, more self-satisfaction. That means you become moving towards freedom. What is bondage? Not accepting myself, not being happy with myself. What is freedom? Being happy with myself. Lord Krishna, Atmaneva Atmana Tushtha. One who is satisfied with oneself by oneself. So to the extent that I acquire that, to that extent I track what my progress is. Oh. What factors define or decide the place and nature of my birth? The past karma. This body is the result of the karma of the previous life, the prarabdha karma. So all the karma accumulated in my account, a portion of that becomes now effective to give rise to this body. In short, prarabdha karma determines what embodiment I will have, where I am born. They say that prarabdha karma decides three things: what embodiment you have, where you are born, and what will you spend of your life. Three things are decided. This is generally, but these days now span of life is in our control also to some extent. Not to a great extent. We have the freedom to take care of our health and perhaps stretch our life. I don't know. There is also prarabdha, I don't know. My prarabdha makes me do that, and that's how I think that I have stretched my life. I don't know. It's difficult to decide what we do and what karma does. Lord Krishna says, do your duty. Are there boundaries for my duties? We'll talk about them tomorrow. An actor who acts as Ravana reverts to his true self after the play is over. Yesterday Ravana came, isn't it? An actor who acts as Ravana reverts to his true self after the play is over. Similarly, if a student of Vedanta reverts to his ignorant self after Swamiji's class, but Ravana reverts to his true self, which means knowledge. Ravana is result of superimposition. Reverting to true self, that means that he has given up superimposition, not that he becomes ignorant, and he doesn't add superimposition. Reverting to true self is what? Ravana has given up superimposition, and now has owned up his true nature. So that if student of Vedanta reverts to ignorant self, no, you can't revert because already ignorant. Where is the reverting there? So please don't worry. You're already there. There's no question of reverting. What's the meaning of the word Rama? Huh? Ramyate asmin. Ramyate yogino yasmin. It's one way of explaining. In the word Rama, Ram means a sport, so Rama is one who, the meaning of the word Rama would be one who sports or makes you happy. Rama who delights, Rama means one who delights you. That would be the literal meaning of the word. Ram means a sport. Rama is the one who delights you. Although we equate Rama as delighting or happiness itself, but word Rama little would mean that although Rama is known as the one who Ramante yogino yasmin, the yogis dwell in whom is Rama, and that is the happiness of the self. In yesterday's class, I mentioned that Dvaitam was mutual exclusion and not multiplicity. Can you please help me understand and help reconcile this with Ekameva Dvitiyam Udaramantaram Kurute Atatasya Bhayam Bhavati? What is meant by creating distance with Ishvara is looking at Ishvara, what Ishvara is, what I am not, and what I am is what Ishvara is not. That's called mutual exclusion. Well, that's not true. Ishvara is myself. And what I am doing is that I am creating a distance which is not there, and that's why the fear is caused. So Ekameva Dvitiyam is a reality. That Ishvara is myself, and then I still look upon him as different from me, and that is what creates insecurity in me. Moment I feel not included, I feel excluded, I become insecure, that's how fear is created. Dvitiya dvai bhayam bhavati. So when there is this exclusion, not just two, when the second one is that need not create fear in me. Only that's what the statement seems to say, Dvitiyadvai bhayam bhavati. There is fear when there is second one. But the second one, in fact, can give you security also. Second one becomes cause of fear when I feel excluded by them. Then there is a distance. That is when I become insecure. The two need not create fear. Dvitiya should not mean two. Just because there is someone else, therefore fear is created, should not be so. Should it be, Swamiji? Dvitiyadvai bhavam, the Dvitiya should not mean other one. It means the one who I exclude or who excludes me. The other person does not necessarily create fear, it can give me in fact security also. I am sometimes afraid by being alone and someone gives me comfort, security. So there is no rule that other one necessarily creates fear. The division creates fear. When I know that, well, I am not him, he is not me, then I don't know who he is. Then there is all concern in my mind, and that can cause uncertainty and fear. So that too does not mean the second person creates fear. Doesn't have to, if I have the right understanding. Suppose I love that person. Then it can be another person that need not create fear. It's not two means this number two.
Subject-object. Subject-object division is how Puja Swami would put it normally.
Subject-object division also, but still, if I love that object, that love in fact erases the duality between subject and object anyway. But all right, put it that way, subject, object. I say the exclusion. Then that's two subject excludes object that way.
Alienation. That subject-object means that I have limited myself. To see a second one, I have limited myself already. Therefore, that is a source of fear. That I take myself to be limited is fear. That's how Puja Swami used to put it.
Right. Yeah, that is true. That I take myself limited. But that I am even if I am alone also. But then, when the second one is there, I feel limited because I feel excluded by them. See, what creates fear? So, Brahmava, what is our Brihadaranyaka Upanishad? No. Brahma is Brahmana Jati here. Brahmatam Paradat yo Atmananyat Brahma Veda. Brahma is Brahman, and say Brahmana rejects me. Brahmana defeats me, rejects me. If I look upon it, Brahmana is an example here, as different from myself. So Brahmana itself, no, but when I look upon Brahmana as separate from me, this Brahmana is okay. Brahmatam Pradat yu Atmananyat Brahma Veda. That Brahma is Brahmana Kshatriya. Other one by one different examples I take. Other person defeats me, rejects me when I look upon that person as separate from myself. When I create the division. So it's division that creates a sense of rejection. Not just, because otherwise two are always there. For a wise person also people are there, but then there is no division there. And the extent to which we become free from the division, so that is also Antaragan Shuddhi. Means this division also becomes less and less pronounced.
Alienation from the whole can be the...
Yeah. True, but here this is the Dvitiyadvai bhayam bhavati, so we are trying to interpret the statement. Okay. Can I understand Advaitam being not mutually exclusive possible only when the multiplicity itself is mithya? Yes, if the two is mithya, then the two doesn't cause the division. When I know that other is, two is only in the upadhi, not in the self. The two is like my reflection, a different mirror. reflecting me. So when presence of someone doesn't create in me a sense of duality, that that one is different, I am different, that is ideal, then there is no fear. But the extent to which I see duality or exclusion, to that extent, uncertainties and fears come. You had spoken about Buddhi forming opinion, and is opinion the same as judgment? You can say that. Opinion and judgment is Buddhi, that's what Buddhi does. Buddhi has judgment, or opinion comes from a judgment anyway. So opinion also is alright, judgment also is alright. That's what Buddhi does. Okay. Any other question? I've done that paper is answered. The question paper is answered, so. Or sometimes viva, so they may say about what. So, if there is any other question left. No, these are all typed here, isn't it so?
Swamiji, those questions have come after the printout.
Okay. Then we'll wait for the next occasion. Okay, so we'll conclude with one bhajan. You can close the lights. चंद्रशेखराय नमः ओम चंद्रशेखराय नमः ओम गंगाधराय नमः ओम गंगाधराय नमः ओम चंद्रशेखराय नमः ओम गंगाधराय नमः ओम ओम नमः शिवाय नमः ओम ओम नमः शिवाय नमः ओम हर हर हराय नमः ओम हर 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 हराय नमः ओम हर शिव शिव शिवाय नमः ओम शिव 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 शिवाय नमः ओम जग सर्वेश्वराय नमः ओम जगदीश्वराय नमः ओम चंद्रशेखराय नमः ओम गंगाधराय नमः ओम ओम नमः शिवाय नमः ओम ओम नमः शिवाय नमः ओम हर हर हराय नमः ओम हर हर हराय Shiva Shiva Shivaya Nama Om. Shiva 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 Shivaya Nama Om. Shiva Sarveshwaraya Nama Om. Jagadishwaraya Nama Om. Chandrasekharaya Nama Om. Chandrasekharaya Nama Om. Gangadharaya Nama Om. Gangadharaya Nama Om. Om Namah Shivaya Nama Om. Hara Hara Haraya Nama Om. Om Namah Shivaya Nama Om. Hara Hara Haraya Nama Om. Hara Shiva Shiva Shivaya Nama Om. Shiva 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 Shivaya Nama Om. Shiva Sarveshwaraya Nama Om. Jagadishwaraya Nama Om. Sarveshwaraya Nama Om. Jagadishwaraya Nama Om. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramayah Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhaved Asato Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritangamaya Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari